Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast. If you have ever been to the state of Ohio, you have heard this man's voice. He has been on WHIO radio for almost 4 decades. And since 1982, he has been the play-by-play voice of the University of Dayton basketball team. He also announces their football games now. He is an institution in the middle of this country, and I am honored that he's taken a few minutes today to join us on the podcast. Larry Hansgen. How are you, Larry?
I'm doing great. I'm just real excited for all Knicks fans to get just a great player, a great person. You should be very happy, despite what Stephen A. Smith says. Well,
listen, I don't know that I've ever taken the time to talk about Stephen A. Smith on this podcast. I'd rather not change that if that's okay with you. Sure. All due respect to him. Actually, before we get to Obi, I have to ask, because, 40 years announcing for Dayton basketball. Are you at the point yet where you've kind of looked back and be like, my goodness, this has been you don't hear that very often, someone staying there for that long. What has it been like?
Well, let me tell you something. I'm from Ohio. I grew up in Columbus, but I don't know that anyone in the broadcast industry ever says, my dream is to get a job in Dayton, Ohio, and then be there the rest of my life. That's not stuff that people, put down on their list of goals.
Fair.
But you know what? But my reality is better than any dream I could have come up with. Okay. Because the thing is, you want, if you're in broadcasting, podcasting, any type of media, you want people to pay attention. You want to matter. You want to matter. You want to do meaningful work where there are people that want to listen to you, to read you. And I could not have more meaningful, more rewarding work than what I do right here, because I'm involved in something that really matters to people. It really matters. And as a consequence, it's made it a phenomenal run. And to be honest with you, one that I do not envision ever seeing come to a close. As long as I can, as long as I can do it, I'm going to.
Well, you seem like you're doing a pretty good job of it right now. So, and look, you've seen Dayton. Dayton's been on the map, obviously, for a very long time. They've had, goes back to the middle of last century as a basketball, school of some renown. You've had NBA players come out of Dayton before. I think, probably the two most notable are a hair before your time, Johnny Davis and Jim Paxson. And you've had some NBA players since then. I don't know. Have you ever had somebody quite like Obi?
Well, no, this is the first lottery pick. Jim Paxson Jr. was a first-round selection in '79, and then back in the '50s, a guy named John Horan was a first-round pick. But no, I've seen the connections between Dayton basketball and New York. I don't know how strong that they are, but they are. It's very significant.
Because inform us, please.
Yeah, well, it began. I'm going to give everyone a little history lesson here.
That's what we're here for.
Dayton basketball got on the national map in the 50s. There was a guy named Tom Blackburn that took over a program that was just kind of there, and all of a sudden they started winning, and he took them to their first NIT in 1951, and that was a big deal. And they got to the finals several times in the 50s, and train loads of Dayton fans would go to Madison Square Garden to watch the NIT, and
when it was the biggest tournament before the NCAA,
and the fans in New York really took to Dayton. I still run into people if ever I go to New York for anything, and they find out I'm involved in Dayton basketball. They go, Dayton, those were the guys that wore the capes. And they had their warm-ups, warm-ups. They ran on the floor in these warm-ups, and the jackets they had capes.
That's phenomenal.
People just thought that was great. And so you're talking about a team that was, number 3 in the nation in 1956. A team that went to Kentucky and won the UKIT. So Dayton basketball, saw some prominence then. And then in the 60s was still there, went to the championship game against UCLA in 67. And then, as the college basketball world got bigger, Dayton became less of a top tier program.
But you had the Jim O'Brien years, which were, went to the tournament that lost to, goodness, what was it? The national champion Arkansas team, right?
Yeah, lost Arkansas.
There you go.
And then, sadly after that, though, the bottom fell out.
Yeah.
And Jim had some bad years and won 6 and 7 games in consecutive years, and 4 and then 6 games in consecutive years, and got fired, and thought he got a bad deal on that. I couldn't. I mean,
4 games is 4 games.
Yeah. I mean, when your football team wins more games in 1 year than your basketball team won in 2 years combined, that's not a good health. So, but it's always been a program that has, been very competitive within its league, has not dominated its league, but, and it had episodes, and for the most part, people have always judged it by tournament runs. And I think that's what happens to a lot of schools.
Sure. Yeah.
But there was a player that actually played with Coach Anthony Grant, who came out of Westinghouse High School in Brooklyn, a guy named Roosevelt Chapman, who's still the school's all-time leading scorer, and was the most charismatic player I had seen until Obi Toppin. And I told Coach Grant, I said, you know what? I think Obi's more popular than Roosevelt. And Coach Grant looked at me and rolled his eyes, and he said, I don't know. But Coach Grant's coach, Don Donaher, who coached Roosevelt, he agrees with me.
Well, you mentioned the tournament runs. Look, who knows what would have happened? I'm imagining they would have gotten one of the 1 seeds. Speculating. Do you think he would have been sitting there at the 8th pick if if all this hadn't happened and he had an opportunity to maybe show his stuff on, for a national audience more?
I don't know. I think that, it's so much. This was a kind of a unique draft.
Yeah.
And there wasn't that solid number 1 and then everybody else. Yeah. I think it was a deeper draft than we've seen in recent years. I think that people, got some pretty good basketball players. Like, look at Devin Dotson, how far he fell into the second round.
Unbelievable.
I've seen this guy. He was Kansas' best player in Kansas. It was either going to be Dayton or Kansas. Dayton, Kansas, Gonzaga, best team in the country, and he fell. So I don't know. It's I think everything happens for a reason. I think that, Coach Grant and the Flyers have been very, when they got back after finding out there was not going to be a NCAA tournament, and they just really, he really helped the guys get over it, and then just really to put things in perspective about, well, look what you did. Don't look what you didn't get to do. Look what you did, and appreciate that, and appreciate the time together. So, I think Obi ends up going to where he would have wanted to go. And I don't know if you saw pictures, obviously social media, his mom put a picture on social media of him, like he looked like he was maybe, I don't know,
6 or 7, 8, maybe something like that.
He's wearing a Knicks jersey.
That's a Latrell Sprewell jersey, which I have hanging in my closet upstairs. I'll have you know.
So what's the number on it?
Number 8.
Number 8. He goes number 8 to the Knicks. It was meant to be.
I love it. Being a Knick has not always been, over the last 20 years, something to proudly say and proclaim from the rooftops. We got a kid in RJ Barrett last year who seemed to be happy with the facts, still seems pretty happy with it. We got another one here who he seems like he's excited about this. Dayton is not New York. Ohio is not New York. Dayton's not New York. Do you think he will, just being around him, take to the return home after 2 years in that setting?
I think, yeah, absolutely. And I put this out draft night even on Twitter. I said, I firmly believe this. Obi can be to the Knicks what Derek Jeter was to the Yankees.
Wow.
That I think he can be not just an all-star player, but that face that, that leader in the community of your program, and I think he's even more outgoing than Jeter was. Kind of pretty of a quiet guy, kind of, he was not out there.
He had a way about him that was
right.
Yeah.
But he was the guy. He was the guy, and he was
there was no doubt.
He was facing, and I think Obi's got that. He's got that.
What gives you that impression? Is there one thing that stands out that gives you that impression? Or,
well, I'll quote what I saw it, but a lot of times I look at what other people observe as kind of verifying and validating what I observe. Okay. And Coach Donaher, who's in the College Basketball Hall of Fame, and Coach Anthony Grant, and he said the thing that amazed him about Obi, he goes, you never see a team where the guy is also the best teammate.
Wow.
And he was the best player. He was the best teammate. He was the most engaging with the fans. And one of the things that was amazing about Obi was that, how a lot of great players have tunnel vision?
Sure.
They block everything out and they're just laser focused on the task at hand,
The Kobe, Mamba mentality, that type of thing, which is one way to go.
Yeah. Well, it's very effective for those type of individuals, the Tiger Woods, that Obi is the type of guy that, he would banter with the fans during the course of the game. Opposing fans would be, you could say he had rabbit ears, because he would hear what people say. But yeah, I mean, they played a game at Richmond this year, and this was the first hostile game they had to play. Okay. They had played, there's a lot of places, the A-10, where Dayton would have more fans than the home team. That was the case, St. Joe's, LaSalle. It's always the case at Fordham. And so play at Richmond, and they actually had opposing fans, hostile fans, and their baseball team sitting behind the basket, and they've get painted up, and they were there before the Dayton team arrived.
Oh, they were ready to go. Okay.
They were ready to go.
They were ready to go.
And they probably had tuned up a little bit too. And so, and Dayton's not like doing the official layup line stuff. They're just out just shooting around the court. Mm-hmm. And they're all over Obi. They're all over Obi, and they're saying overrated, all these, just talking trash to him.
National Player of the Year, but okay, fine.
Yeah, and he's just and he's giving it right back to them. And in the second half, they were underneath Dayton's basket in the second half, and he came down, and I think he knew they were there.
Okay,
he came down and he threw down a windmill dunk.
Oh, I know the one I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, that where one of his teammates actually was pantomiming behind him, and he just threw that down and literally right in their face, and and just said, "Okay, what do you think about me now?" The postscript to this, he signed autographs for the guys after the game.
Oh, wow. That's cool to hear. And it's been a while, I think, since, I'm not going to say we haven't had some personalities here again over the last couple of decades, but I don't know that the fans really ever, other than Linsanity, which was kind of a weird thing. I don't know if the fans ever really took to it as far as like, okay, this is our guy. He's ours.
He's a good person. He's a really good person. This is a high character kid. And his mom, when he was his freshman year, we were playing a game at the Mohegan Sun Casino up in Connecticut, and we're waiting in the lobby area to walk over to the gym. Some woman comes up and she's asking, someone told me you're a real life basketball player. Well, how tall are you? And just totally dumb questions, total pain. And he was patient with her, and yes, ma'am, I am, and I'm playing for the University of Dayton, and we're here today to play Tulsa, and we're gonna, and it just was so patient with her, and she leaves, then comes back. She goes, "Oh, can I get a picture?" "Yeah, sure, I'll be glad to." So I tell his mom this, and his mom goes, "Oh, not surprising." She goes, "I called him the mayor when he was a little kid."
Oh, that's great.
I'd push him around in the stroller there in the streets of Brooklyn. I'd push him around in the stroller, and he's in his stroller going, "Hey there. Hi, everyone. How you doing? Hey, good morning. Hey, everybody. Hi." And he hadn't changed.
That's so again, referencing how things have been around here, not so great. I think there is some new energy around the franchise with, new president, obviously a new coach, Tom Thibodeau. By the way, do you think, again, just knowing the personality of Obi as you think a guy like Tibbs, who kind of has a reputation, is like demanding, but if you put in the work, he will get the most out of you. You think that partnership will go okay?
Yes, because he likes to be coached. He wants to be coached. If you don't mind, I've got stories to back up.
By all means.
Okay, so he had his first year at Dayton. He had to sit out academically.
Yes.
So, but he's practicing that year, and he practiced harder than. There was a situation where I was hanging around practice one day, and there was a guy that wasn't playing a lot, and then Obi, who could not play in the game that night. So they were having him run extra drills afterwards. And he's going hard, and the other kid's not. And the assistant coach says, "Come on, man, you got to go hard. Look at Obi. He's trying to get better. You got to get better." And the kid ended up walking off the floor.
Oh, wow.
And no. And Obi just worked. He approached that year. The strength coach said it. The coaching staff. I saw
when he wasn't even playing.
He wasn't even playing. He attacked that year. He attacked it to get better. He attacked it. He got bigger. He got stronger. He got better. And he wants to be great. He wants to be great. I heard
not good. He wants to be great.
Yeah. I mean, I heard the knock on, Anthony Edwards, the number one pick, is that, does he have the drive to be great? I mean, does he kind of okay with where he is and how he plays, or does he want to just be great? Obi wants to be great, and he wants to be coached. I mean, he wants to be coached. He wants someone to make him better than he is right now. Obi hasn't arrived. He's not arrived. He doesn't think of this as a
He's not done yet. This
wasn't a destination. He hasn't crossed any finish line. This is a milestone, but he's not done running the race.
So what I was starting to say before is that attitude, I think, and the positivity and a little patience maybe will serve him well here, because again, there's a lot of bad stuff, that's been going on in MSG for a while. And I think it's starting to turn around. The fans will, eighth pick, obviously National Player of the Year. I think already there's this thinking like, okay, part of the benefit of taking this guy is he's going to be able to kind of produce right away. Do you think he will take to that pressure? Again, just from what you've seen.
Yeah, because I've seen him when he's frustrated.
Okay.
And I saw what teams did to try to frustrate him, and I saw him improve in that way. The game against one of the second games of the conference season, playing at St. Joe's, and they weren't very good this year. And they began the game by having a 6'3" former walk-on.
Oh, goodness.
Guard him. Okay. So what do you think that strategy was? I mean, that kid was there to give 5 fouls, and just all he did was pull and grab and push and shove and claw and scratch. And then if Obi did get the ball, then 3 other guys would collapse on him.
Okay. They weren't going to let him beat them.
Right. And so he just kicked the ball out. He became a much better passer that game, because he said, "Oh, okay. All right. You're frustrated." And he was frustrated. I mean, it wasn't like the light bulb went off in the middle of that game. He got in some foul trouble because he did try to press it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then thereafter, his ability to handle the attention that the opponents were giving him, and his ability to still impact games improved dramatically. Because there again, he's a good student of the game. He saw the film, he saw it. He coaches, and he was blessed with having some really good teammates too.
Well, I mean, you don't get to be the whatever the number one team in
Right.
the country essentially. But I'm happy you brought up his playmaking because everybody thinks modern NBA, you got to be able to shoot. His 3-point shots coming along. To me, the most exciting part of his ceiling isn't. I mean, the shot will matter, but it's the playmaking. And we saw some really high, you obviously saw all of them, some really high level passes from Obi this year. Do you think there is maybe, again, yes, he's 22, but do you think there's, with how much he seems to be improving steadily along the way, do you think there's even more of a ceiling there for him as maybe a playmaking big at the next level?
Yeah, I think that's where he's, his ability to play above the rim is there.
Yeah.
He's a good 3-point shooter. He's a good free throw shooter.
Yep.
He's not a great rebounder. I think where he can improve is he needs to become a greedy rebounder.
Ooh, I like that. I'm gonna steal that from you. Sorry.
Yeah, I love guys that are greedy rebounders. That they want to out rebound the opponent. They want to out rebound their teammates. They want them all.
That's fine.
That's one thing. Greedy shooters can get you in trouble. A greedy rebounder will never be a problem. And no. I think he needs to be a little bit more greedy as a rebounder, and he knows he's got to improve as a defensive player. He was, his assist to turnover and steal ratio, those numbers weren't bad last year. He didn't turn the ball over a whole lot, and he was usually getting averaging over 1 steal per game. Playing as a 5-man. Didn't
and
block.
He showed a little rim protection at times. Not there's work to be done, but yeah.
Yeah, but so I mean there's something to work on there, and there's some room for growth. He's got the potential to be a lot better player than he is right now, and he wants to be.
Last couple, and then I'm going to get you out of here. This may be, just in terms of wins and losses, not the best. Well, depending on what they do, the Knicks are always, their name comes up when these big, names are on the market or whatever. Do you think you've kind of talked about it already. Do you think he's cool being in this for the long haul, understanding like, okay, we're at step 1 here with the Knicks, but I'm here to build this, like this. I understand this is a foundation to something bigger.
His first year, he's sitting on the bench watching his team win 14 games. Okay. His next year, they got a little better. And then last year, the greatest season in Dayton basketball, and he was frustrated that first year because he couldn't help.
Yeah.
But there again, he attacked it in practice. You thought, well, if I can be really great in practice, I can make these guys better. I can help us that way. So I think, though, for him to have seen his 3 years in college be losing season, NIT, first round and out season, and top 3 in the nation. So he was part of it, and he realizes he was part of it. And I think he'll have, the pay. I mean, he'll take some lumps. Nobody likes to lose. But I think that he's not going to accept losing.
I love that.
But he will use it. He will use it to try to get better.
Last thing, if you do succeed in New York, and, getting ahead of ourselves here, the spotlight is bright. You get a lot of attention. He seems, again, you've described it. He seems like a phenomenal young man. You think if this thing does go well, do you think he's going to be okay with that progression? Hopefully, again, this is a good problem to have.
Yeah. You know what? He handled being the National Player of the Year in college and being the star on a program that in a basketball crazy town. He handled himself well. He'll need, I'll tell you what, if you know anyone with the Knicks, he'll need a handler. Okay.
I think they could probably provide that.
Okay. And when I say a handler, he needs someone that says, Obi, you got to get on the bus now. You can't sign more autographs. Obi, quit posing for pictures. We've got to get off the floor. Obi, you're not going to be able, we're not going to do that interview. We're not going to go that TV show. No, we've got to get to practice now.
Okay.
That's what he's going to need.
Okay.
He is going to, you got to love someone that likes being Obi Toppin.
He's nothing wrong with that.
He's comfortable.
I'd like being Obi Toppin if I was Obi Toppin.
But he's comfortable in his own skin. This is not a guy that's going to be this moody, pouting, star. He's a guy he's going to play the game with joy. He's going to make his teammates better. He's going to, before he ever sat foot on the floor for Dayton, fans would come up to me and they'd say, "All right, Larry, you've been to practice, And then back then he had this goofy hairdo, it was like, Yeah. And what about the guy with the funny hair? What can you tell me about him? And I said, well, I can describe him in 3 ways. He's athletic, he's energetic, and he's coachable. I don't know how that will come to fruition, but I think that is a basis for success.
And it seems like it has been. When we get, the ability to actually watch games live, hopefully if you have, a free weekend or something and he's playing well, maybe come back up or come up to New York, catch a game live. I'll have to see you then.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you're going to see an awful lot once they start letting people in MSG. Yeah. You're going to see a lot of people from Dayton.
I look forward to it.
I can remember, back in 2010, Dayton won the NIT, beat North Carolina. And so I'm there in New York. We stayed at the Marriott Marquis, and I decided one day to walk to MSG for the shoot around that day.
Okay.
Nice day. I get a walk in, And
not a bad area.
I'm walking down the street there in New York City, and I got people honking the horn at me, yelling, waving, saying, "Go Flyers."
That's great.
And so Dayton, you're going to see a lot of Dayton gear at
Dayton Travels
Square Garden this year. Dayton Travels. And hey, I bought my Knicks hat yesterday.
Hey, all right. That's what we need. There you go.
I mean, this town is going to be Knicks crazy.
Well, listen, we will take all the support that we could get. Larry Hansgen, you are an absolute legend. Thank you for gracing this podcast with your presence.
Can I get in one selfish plug?
I was about to ask you anything, where can the folks find you? Where can they see you?
Well, if you're in Dayton, 1290 AM, 95.7 FM, WHIO. You can listen to a streaming of the basketball games and what have you as well. And if you want to know more about Obi Toppin, you want to know about this team, this culture, it's available now on Amazon. Bigger Than Basketball, the Dayton Flyers' greatest season, book that I wrote over the course of this quarantine summer, and it's been out for about a week on Amazon. Seems to be moving well, and your podcast followers are more than welcome to go to Amazon and buy the book and learn a little bit more about Obi Toppin and the Dayton Flyers.
I'll tell you what, if you're listening to this, we'll just go to wherever you're getting your podcast. We'll put a link to that book right there. So if you want to order that, just go find where you got the pod and we'll have it there. And I'll also make sure I tag that link on Twitter when I put this out. So if you're listening to this and you want to learn a little bit more about the Knicks' latest draft pick, I needless to say, strongly recommend taking advantage of that. Larry, you've been so generous with your time. Thank you very much. I'm sure people are really going to enjoy this.
All right. Go Flyers, go Knicks.
Go Flyers and go Knicks indeed.